Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. It's over. It's over. Cleveland is a city of champions once again. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.
That sound means it's time for Cavs on the Break NBA podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network. I'm your host, Chase Smith, and with me, the editor and writer at 48minutes.com, now editor at Outkick, right? Is that true?
Assistant managing editor.
Assistant managing editor at Outkick.com. He is our Cavs insider, national NBA writer, Sam Amico. Sam, congrats on the promotion.
Thank you. It's basically doing the same thing, only now I get to tell other people what to do. And thankfully they don't listen, but it's fun, and I love both jobs. I'm very blessed in that sense.
It's great. You do an incredible job. Hey, let's talk about the Cavs. What do you say, man?
I think that's a good idea.
We're going to talk about the Cavs. We're going to do our favorite segment, Overreaction or On Point. And there's no exaggeration in that. The greatest segment of all time. And then we'll talk about the upcoming slate, week 3 and week 4, finish out in week 3. Hey, so the Cavs are 4-4, Sam. They came crashing back to earth after a kind of hot start. Is this kind of where we're going to see the Cavs settle throughout the year? Kind of like win 2 or 3, lose 2 or 3. Is this kind of hopefully where they're going to settle?
Yeah, that'd be great. 5, if they look, everybody be thrilled if the Cavs can finish right around 500. Or better, but and I think that's a possibility, and I don't even really know that they've crashed back to earth, because you think about all the injuries. There's 2 things working against them right now, and that's the injuries have just been unreal. I mean, it's getting to like historical proportions here when it comes to, the starters have been injured, and then the guys who are filling in for them have been injured. Tonight, Wednesday, their second loss to Orlando in 2 games. Colin Sexton hurt his ankle. His status is, it sounds like he's going to tough it out, but it's just been, so that's the first thing that's been working against him, is the injuries. And then the second is you're in the second week of the season, and already you're going on a 6-game road trip, so those are 2 very difficult things to overcome when you're a team where you have so many young players in key positions, namely the backcourt. And it's just tough. So I really admire what this team has done in terms of even, at 4-4. Now, if they were 1-7 or something, you'd be like, okay, but right. I mean, they're 500 in spite of this. First 8 games, JB Bickerstaff has had to use 7 different starting lineups. He's been forced to do that because of, first you had Love, and then Okoro, and now Darius Garland, and then you had Exum, who was filling in for all of those guys, gets hurt, and you still don't have Kevin Porter Jr., and you still don't have Dellavedova, and I forget sometimes even Dylan Windler. So those are all key members of the rotation that have not been available.
And they were competitive tonight against the Magic. It was a good game. They fell short. The final score here, I'm sorry. I
think it was 105-94, if I'm correct.
Yes. Sorry, I was looking at my wrong notes. Yeah, 104-95. 105-94. Yeah, 104-95.
Somewhere in there.
They've lost 3 in a row. They lost the Magic a couple nights ago on Monday, the 4th. That one wasn't really as close. But then they lost to the Pacers in Indiana as well, and part of the 6-game road trip. And they're not done, Sam. They're not done. We played tonight, Thursday, in Memphis against the Grizzlies. We play Saturday in Milwaukee, and then we have a 3-game homestand. So their trip is not done. You'd like to see them maybe win against we're getting ahead here in our show notes, but you'd like to see them come away with the win against even more devastated, injured-riddled Grizzlies team before they have to go play the MVP in Milwaukee. Plus, you don't want to start piling on losses either, especially early in the season. You want to try to break those, couple game losing streaks. You feel pretty confident going into Memphis, Sam?
Memphis played a great game the other night against the Lakers, even without Morant. Took a LeBron fadeaway to beat Memphis. So they will play hard. the one thing that maybe that game took a lot out of him. You know, I put this in my dribbles that's up on 48 minutes before we were even doing this podcast, but I wrote that and posted it, and I said, if they can win, if the Cavaliers can win one of these next three, you know, you don't want to lose all three of these, because then you're, 4-7. But if you can win one, whether it's, I mean, I hate to say this, but it's probably not going to be Milwaukee,
Mm-hmm.
So,
though they played the Hawks well, and there was a playoff
right,
team,
so yeah, you never know, but if they could get Memphis, that would be the best spot. And look, Chase, I mean, they're entertaining, they're playing hard.
Yep,
they're playing so hard, and I think right now they can be proud of where they are. There is nothing there that says, this team is desperate for a win, or this team's desperate for. They just need to. And JB Bickerstaff has been preaching this. Just keep playing the right way, keep giving great effort, and things are going to fall into place. And so far, he's been right, even though they've lost. They lost. Orlando's good. They lost a couple tough games to Orlando in Orlando. Maybe the outcomes would have been different in Cleveland, even though the Cavs don't have all their guys.
Right. They play Memphis Thursday. They go to Milwaukee on Saturday, and then Monday in Cleveland against Memphis again. So they really could win two of the next three, even before they get into a week 4 slate. They very easily could take two from Memphis. They're 2-5 right now. And so those are winnable games on the schedule. If you want to see progress, those are the games you want to see the Cavs kind of play, and see some progress regardless of injuries and depth at this point. Sam, over the end of the week 2 slate against the Pacers and the last couple of games against the Magic, what were some issues you saw on the court? Not so much injuries, things like that we can't control, but what are some things you saw that we could control that are kind of like a little warning to you?
Well, one is they still have a tendency to, and this isn't even the first one. It's just the one I thought of that came to mind first, was early in the season, the first 4 games or so, and they're doing a better job of it now. They would go through stretches there where their transition defense was just bad. They weren't getting back. They weren't, it was just, they weren't beating the ball down the court. They might beat their own man, but you can't do that on a fast break. You've got to beat the ball down the court, and they weren't doing that. And that was a real problem last year. So I think that the last 2 or 3 games, they've gotten better at that. The other issue, and JB Bickerstaff addressed that after the second Orlando loss, is they're having trouble scoring, which is, he said, if we hold a team to 104, 105 points,
you got to win.
We should be able to win in today's NBA.
Yep.
But he said, we're not getting in great position to get real good shots. And he said, I've got to do a better job of getting guys in good position to score. And other than that, you just got to try and get second shots and those kind of things. So really, it's hurt them not having Garland. That's, because that's, at this point in the season, I mean, he's been averaging what? I'm not sure, but he's been scoring 20 a few times. I think probably right around 16, 17, 18, somewhere in there. You're missing those points. And obviously, you have Damian Dotson, who's a reserve, who's been starting for you, who also had to take a seat early because he got hurt. He came back in the game, but there's just not a lot there. You got Andre Drummond, obviously, he's going to score, put up a double-double every night. But you need something. You probably need something more in terms of points from Larry Nance Jr., who's great in terms of athletic utility guy. There's no question he would fit on any team in the league. But at this point, you probably need him to start scoring more, looking to score more, being a little more selfish, which he's totally unselfish. So that might be difficult, but you've got to find some points other than just Sexton and Drummond. You've got to find another consistent guy. Cedi Osman has not been good as a starter. We talked about this last week. He was 1 of 12 tonight. J. Bickerstaff has no choice but to start him. at this point, but he's much better in reserve. And, that's just where they are right now. They've got to find points throughout these injuries. And look, hopefully both Darius Garland and Kevin Porter Jr. will debut at some point, and Darius Garland will be back sooner rather than later, because those guys will give you an offensive lift in terms of points, and that's where they're struggling most right now.
And we mentioned in our last episode that with this slate, we'll kind of get to see what kind of team the Cavs really are. And it seems like they're a young team trying to figure it out, who aren't the worst team in the league, and they're not the best team in the league. And I think, obviously they start, was it 3-1, and we're all like, woo, Cavs, yeah, go. Yeah. So that was a lot of fun. And we all know it was a lot of fun. But it does seem like there's still some things for them to figure out, Sam. And while it was great having everyone healthy and everyone playing well, the realistic point of that is, that's not a real NBA season. There's not a whole NBA season where your whole entire team is always healthy and you just, nothing goes wrong. Part of the season, like every sport, is working through adversity and working with depth and being able to adjust accordingly. And hopefully the next week or so, we see the Cavs able to work with what they have and to adjust. And, I have faith in Bickerstaff at this point to be able to do that. But, we got to get off the losing train here these next couple games. And hopefully they're able to do that. Because you don't want to, you lose to the Grizzlies and then you lose to the Bucks and then you got the Jazz coming up, and it's just like you want to get a win. You want to get one right in the right column.
Yeah. You don't want the train, the train to totally derail, which you can do, and which I think is Cavs. People have followed the Cavs in the non-LeBron years. We've seen it before where it's like, oh boy, here comes the 10-11 game losing streak. I really don't think, I would be stunned if this team lets it get that far. I think that they know, they believe in themselves, which is a big difference from even last year. And I think they believe in that they see that if they do things the right way, they listen to the coach and they continue to do the things that he wants them to do, they've got a fighting chance to, and I know this for a fact, being in the locker room, all the players want is, we hear fans and maybe the front office or whatever kind of lean towards tanking. I can tell you the players are like, everybody thinks we're going to be terrible, and all we want to do is show them that we're not going to be. And we saw that last year with Oklahoma City Thunder, and it can happen. It can happen in the NBA where everybody suspects you're going to be playing for lottery picks, and you don't do that. And you know what? You still get a good pick. It's not like they're going to win the East. You're still going to get a good pick if they were to finish 8th. And, plenty of good guys have been drafted 15th. Kawhi Leonard, Giannis Antetokounmpo. There's 2 guys right there that went
just to 15. Name a few. Yeah.
Those are like 2 best players in the NBA today. So,
yeah.
You don't always have to. It increases your odds of getting a real difference maker, but it doesn't always, it doesn't always work that way.
And Sam, let's give this team credit. They beat a very good Hawks team in this slate.
Well, on the road too. Yep.
On the road. Yes. 96-91. That was on January 2nd on Saturday. An incredible win, one that maybe, kind of led to some letdown games against this Orlando team that doesn't have as much hype or as young superstars. You have Trae Young and John Collins, and there's just a lot of, it's a different basketball culture in Atlanta than in Orlando. And so the Cavs came in and they showed up, and they kind of stole one from them. The Hawks were up in the first half, and Sexton dropped 27. It was a fun game for the Cavs to win. And so let's give them credit. That's a great win, Sam.
Yeah. And again, you win. I think I said before, going to Orlando and losing to a team at their place without, half your team, is there's no great shame in what they've done. It's just now you've kind of set yourself up where, again, you don't want to fall too far off the tracks. You just kind of want to be able to find some resolve somehow, some way, and either beat Memphis, beat Milwaukee, or at least get Memphis at home. So, you're 5-6, and that's manageable.
Yeah, but let's take a quick break. When we come back, we will do everyone's favorite segment, Overreactions on Point. Sam, we'll come back and stick around. All right.
We got it.
All right.
Hello, Brooks here with the Books with Brooks monthly book club podcast. We read one book a month and then we talk about it. Books like Stephen King's The Shining or Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. If you're on the hunt for book recommendations and enjoy sparkling conversation, come read along with us and then listen in.
Hi, my name is Jeremy Powell, co-host of the Oranges, Oranger, Browns podcast. Check us out anywhere you listen to podcasts. For all your Browns coverage, post-game, pre-game, anything you need Browns, you'll find it here on the Oranges, Oranger, Browns podcast.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Aaron Shipe, co-host of the Tim and Shipe Show. We're part of the Press Play Podcast Network, and we love talking college football. We talk everything from Florida Gators to the Ohio State Buckeyes. If you like college football, check us out. Thanks.
I'm Dennis Maniloff, co-host along with the roadman Kenny Rhoda of the Next Man Up podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network. Roadman and I do a deep dive into Browns, Indians, Cavs, Ohio State, and anything else that's on the sports fan's mind.
Hey, it's JD from the Hyman Podcast. Using a narrative storytelling approach, the Hyman Podcast was created to start conversations that need to be human. Week by week, I'll break down walls and barriers and make people wildly uncomfortable, all the while giving a voice to the voiceless and the marginalized. Consider this your personal invitation to be part of that conversation.
All right, we're back. Time for everyone's all-time greatest favorite segment, Overreaction or On Point. Sam, I'm going to give a couple segments, a couple phrases. You tell me if that's an overreaction or on point. Is that fair?
Yeah, I'm probably going to say overreaction to everything, but go ahead.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Based on experience.
What about? We'll start with this one. This is an easy one. It's a softball down the middle. The Cavs will never win another game. Ah!
I'd say that's a slight overreaction. In fact, I think they'll win a game before our next podcast in a week.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. How's that sound?
Obviously, it's an overreaction, but just of those games coming up, you feel like our game tonight against the Grizz, you think that's one that we could probably take away with the win.
You would, yeah. Again, that's not going to be easy because you're on the road, second night of a back-to-back, and you don't know if you have Colin Sexton. You're already probably not going to have Darius Garland. At that point, I don't even know who's going to play.
I'm about to go and lace them up, man. Me and you.
Yeah. Show up in Memphis, and they'll give you a jersey. I really don't know. I would think that, but again, it's no huge thing if you lose to Memphis and Milwaukee, provided you beat Memphis when you go back home and see them again.
Right. Overreaction or on point, Isaac Okoro will win the Rookie of the Year.
Probably an overreaction only, and I hate to disappoint you, Chase, but I think it's possible. Look at it this way. Tonight was their first loss with Isaac Okoro in the lineup. They're 2-1. But I know Wiseman's been playing well, and usually the Rookie of the Year is going to go to a guy who, and this isn't to say that it couldn't, but just thinking out loud, I think, somebody like Wiseman, LaMelo Ball's been picking it up a lot lately. If those teams win more than the Cavs, those guys are going to have a better shot at it. That's just the way it always goes. Plus, sadly, many of my colleagues in the national media aren't going to vote for a guy in Cleveland because they're not following as closely as, say, you and I and, Chris Fedor and some of the other, Kelsey Russo, some of the other people in Cleveland who watch this team every night. They just don't see enough. So I think that will hurt his odds.
Vegas had him at the beginning of the season at plus 2,000. So they agree that it's an overreaction. I may or may not have put some capital on that just because that's,
right. Yeah. I'm guessing you did.
Well, he was starting, game one, which
right.
This was right when I heard that was whenever I said, hey, what does this look like? It's all about health, right? If
Yes,
God
that's a
forbid anyone
huge
gets
factor.
injured, that could change some things. You never want to hope for an injury, obviously, and I don't want to hope for someone to be injured just for the sake of a bet. But if he gets in and puts in minutes, I think that's what he needs. He needs those minutes, those reps to even be considered in the conversation, which I think is important. And it seems to be if he's healthy, he's going to get it, Sam. So that's a good thing. But the odds probably are not stacked in his favor. But I don't think it's a huge overreaction either. I think
next time you want to do that, just take me to lunch.
Okay, gladly.
You'll get something out of that money. A happy
Gladly.
Amico.
All right. KPJ will not play for the Cavs this year.
I think that's an overreaction, although it's easy to start wondering. I wish, and I wrote a column about this. I wish the Cavs would address it. Now, if it's something that's very personal to him, you don't have to say what it is or say that it is. But I think even for his benefit and for his teammates' benefit, they're probably wondering what's going on. They're not, the Cavs aren't sitting there telling the players, okay, this is what to expect from KPJ. So they're kind of wondering what we all are, which is, what's the time frame? Not what's he suffering or what's the punishment here or whatever. It's when can we expect to see him, because he's a crucial part of what they're doing. Right. Yep. And I mean, his presence in these situations where he would be starting right now.
Yep.
Now if it's not the right time, that's okay. But at the same time, look, you've got a buying public that is like, where is this guy? And again, you don't have to get into specifics. That's not what anybody wants. What people want is, what's a rough estimate of when he may play? When might he be able to return to practice, return to the team, and be involved? And that's all people want to know. Again, we're only 8 games in. If we get to 20 games and this is still going on, that's a real bad sign. So hopefully it'll be sooner rather than later. But he'll play for the Cavs this year.
And look, basketball is just a game. It's just like football, just like baseball. Those are just games. These are people's real lives. And so we do wish the best for Kevin Porter Jr., whatever he's trying to work through, whatever he's, those are serious issues that last beyond basketball. And so we do wish him the best for whatever is going on. We wish him health and, just that everything's okay. But he is so crucial, Sam. We talk about being able to score buckets, a playmaker, be able to create space, create your own shot. He every one of those things we talked about before the break, he would fill that need. And you start looking at this box score against the Magic and you're like, well, geez, he's better than 75, 80, 90% of the people. I mean, at least the ceiling of what he flashed last year. And the fact that it's just been so quiet, obviously it's an overreaction, but gosh, you do want to hear kind of something.
I said, just a rough estimate of when he'll be back. Chase, I'm old enough. People saw The Last Dance, right? The Michael Jordan documentary in the spring. And Ron Harper from the Cavs was all the talk, or for one episode, Ron Harper was much of the talk. And I'm old enough to have seen Ron Harper play when he was with the Cavs. And that's who Kevin Porter Jr. reminds me of. That very similar electrifying style, and just an all-around type of player with a very big ceiling. So hopefully it all works out and he gets back to the lineup.
And that is on point right there for sure. Kevin Porter Jr., get better, buddy. We have 2 more here, Sam. Colin Sexton will be an NBA All-Star. Overreaction or on point?
I think that's on point. I look around the East and he's having that type of year right now. I mean, he's scoring 20 every game, regardless. He's gotten a ton of respect from outside, from the national media. We heard Kendrick Perkins. We heard Dwayne Wade
Yep. They
tweet
said he
about
made the
him.
leap. They said he made the leap, the third-year leap. That's huge.
Well, and this is usually when that's right. You hear from guys like that, especially Wade, who who was a guard in the league for a long
Yeah.
time, and a very good one. No, he's serving notice, and
Yeah.
he's a great kid, a tough kid, and
Really is.
and it's just really become. He's developed every year. First year everybody's like, oh, he shoots too much. Last year kind of like, oh, he shoots too much. We haven't heard that much this year.
Yep.
He's I think he's gotten better coaching than he's ever had with Bickerstaff, and I think he's just he's gotten used to the pro game. That happens all the time. Guys in the third year can come out of nowhere. I mean, Danny Green was a perfect example of that. He went from the Cavs, a nobody with the Cavs, to all of a sudden shining with the Spurs. So I think that Colin Sexton and even Garland, is, provided he can get and stay healthy, is due to take that leap next season. So I think Colin Sexton is really, if you're 8 games, he's on the All-Star team.
And I do feel like if he continues with his development this season, Sam, the next phase of that development is get the team to the playoffs, right? Like, you can't just be at year 3 and then like, hey, that's it, I've arrived. No, you've got to continue. And if you want to be a star, then you need to do what stars do, and you need to take teams that you're the star of to the playoffs. And that's going to be, I think, the next hurdle that he has to kind of figure out.
Right. Well, and that's it. Can you put the team on your back? It's, and I'm not talking about style. Yep. But I'm just talking about the type of player. Are you going to be Damian Lillard, or are you going to be Monte Ellis?
Yeah.
Monte Ellis, who was a great scorer and was a very good player for many years, but was not the kind of guy, and I think Colin is going to be somewhere between there, but maybe at some point you'll be able to be the type of smaller player like a Lillard.
I think that's a great,
like Isaiah Thomas or somebody to be a small man and get your team to the playoffs, be the number 1 option.
Yep. Last one here, overreaction or on point. The Cavs have the best young core in the NBA.
That's probably a little bit overreaction. Because
they're getting harder. You're really like, the first one obviously is overreaction, but every one of them you're like,
you're doing better, because normally I'm like, overreaction, Chase, come on, because now it's like, you got me thinking. But I mean, look at the Atlanta Hawks. That team is stacked with young players, and the Cavs aren't. The Cavs have, Sexton, Garland, Kevin Porter Jr., Windler, Okoro. Those are all nice guys. Dylan Windler, they're all nice players. But I look at the Hawks, and it's like their entire team, other than like these new guys like Rondo and Bogdanovich and Gallinari, these guys are all new. But I mean, you're talking Trae Young, Cam Reddish, DeAndre Hunter, Kevin Huerter, who's a nice player, John Collins, who's an excellent player. Those guys are it's almost like they're maybe a year ahead of the Cavs in terms of young guy development. So, and I know there's somebody else I'm forgetting on that team, but it's a nice. They're probably a step ahead of the Cavs, but they're the first team that came to mind.
Yep.
And I don't know that I can think of any others at this point. So
I definitely think the Cavs are on the short list, Sam. If you give a GM any young roster, I think top 5, 7, someone's going to say, well, what about the Cavs?
Well, right now, absolutely, you would say that without question. And they're getting a lot of respect, which is impressive. They're getting a lot of respect nationally, even in their losses, because of how hard they're playing. And I'll tell you, they're representing the franchise well. And I think that the fans have something to be proud of when watching this team. And again, we talked about this on the first podcast, Chase. This team has some die-hard fans. This franchise has been around for 50 years. And it's funny because even, like my uncles and stuff who are in their 70s are still tuning in, and they get all worked up. And I'm like, you realize the Browns have a big game this week, right? But they're talking about the Cavs, so there's a very entrenched fan base for the Cavs because they've been around a long time and people are very passionate about them, which I've only really started to realize after LeBron, went to LA. Just the last 2 or 3 years, I started to realize, wow, people are still really fired up about this team. And I think that's really cool.
Yep.
Being a lifelong Northeast Ohioan myself, I think that's really cool.
Yep. Well, that does it for the greatest segment of all time, and that is not hyperbole. Overreactions are on point. Sam, let's look at our upcoming slate. Finish out week 3, 4, and 5 here. As you said, tonight we play the Grizzlies in Memphis at FedEx Forum, 8 p.m. Saturday. We travel north to Milwaukee, 8 p.m. game at Fiserv Forum on Saturday, and then
it is mine.
Yep.
I don't know. They keep changing the names.
Yeah, maybe we can put some money up to have it changed to the Amico Fieldhouse.
Yeah, that's a good way to ruin your fan base.
Then next week's slate 4, we have 3 home games. The Grizz, Jazz, and Knicks. It's Monday, Tuesday, and Friday. The Cavs get a couple days off there in the middle of the week. That'll be good before they're back on the road again for back-to-back games in DC against the Wiz on Sunday. And Monday. That takes us through week 4 to week 5. Some winnable games in there, Sam. One of the games I'm most excited about is that Friday game against the Knicks. I really think
payback time.
Yeah. They lost to them earlier in the season.
Yeah.
And I think at home, I want to see the Cavs. That's another one of those that see them grow and like take that step. It might be a little baby step, but that's right. A next step game. What game on the schedule excites you?
Well, I would say that one in particular. I want to see how they, hopefully they'll have Garland and Sexton in Milwaukee. I would like to see how they do for that game, because Milwaukee's such a power, and it's like, well, who's going to guard Giannis?
Okoro. This is his coming out party. Oh my gosh. Okay, I changed my answer. My most exciting game is Saturday against the Bucks, and Okoro is going to shut him down, and it's going to put him on the map, baby. Baby Kawhi.
He'll win Rookie of the Year if he shuts him down. They'll just give it to him that night.
Baby Kawhi.
But I think that game is one you kind of hope, hey, let's stay competitive in that game.
You don't think Okoro has that game circled? You don't think he's looking forward to, just seeing...
I think knowing rookies in the NBA, they're just trying to figure out what they're supposed to eat.
That's fair.
But I have to carry the veterans' bags again today? Probably. Okay.
You played basketball. You're a competitor, right?
Yeah.
If you like feeling yourself and like, I want to go up against Giannis. Like let's do it. Let's go up against the MVP. Let's just kind of see where we're at here. And he doesn't shy away from big moments. We saw that in the preseason, and in this, I don't know. I'm just saying. I changed my answer to that game.
That's a good point. I had very few proud moments during my college basketball career, but I can tell you one of them was my sophomore year. I remember this kid came in, played my position. He was on a team in our conference, and they just crushed us the first game. And he was an All-American in high school, and I could not wait to face them again. That was the game you had circled on your calendar, because it's like, and it was the most memorable game of my career. I played the best game I ever did, because that matchup made me. And obviously these guys are at a completely different level.
Sure.
But I'm just saying, as an athlete, for these guys being professional athletes, yes, he's going to be fired up to face Giannis. Any of them would be, any of them will be fired up for that game. Now, it's just like remember when LeBron was in Cleveland, they always got every team's best shot. Yep. And that's why that kind of mentality and psyche is why, because you want to go in there and prove that you belong. So that'd be a good opportunity for them. Also, I would, the Knicks are a good measuring stick, because they're playing much better under Tom Thibodeau.
Yep. Julius Randle's playing out of his mind.
Yeah, they have really come around, which is not a surprise. Thibodeau's, if not, he's a top 5 coach, and they've responded to him very quickly, and the Knicks like to play that gritty grind out style. So that's a good test, and frankly, want to see what they do. I'd love Garland and Sexton to be totally healthy to face Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook, because if you can go in and beat Washington, which is really Wizards are really struggling, you can beat them on the road. You're sending some messages. So this is a good, and Chase, I'll tell you this. If you had told me last year at this time this was going to be the Cavs schedule when we were doing this podcast, I'd be like, oh boy. Yeah. But now it's like, I cannot wait to see how they match up against these teams and stack up against these teams, because they are playing hard. They're playing the right way, and they're playing through adversity without making excuses. And I don't give credit to Kobe Altman very often, but I will give him credit here, because they are building a culture, a very positive culture there. And I know it's only been 8 games, and there's a long way to go, and a lot of things can happen, but we can only go by what we've seen. And right now it's been impressive.
So what we're saying is, by the time we record again, Okoro is going to shut down the MVP. He's going to single-handedly help beat the Knicks, and then shut down Russell Westbrook, and just be a Rookie of the Year coming out party. Okoro, it's baby Kawhi's here. I'm all, sign me up. I'm all on board.
Let me ask you something, Chase. How much money did you put down?
No, just like $25. Not a ton. That? Just like $25. $25.
Okay.
So not a ton, but
I was worried we were going to lose the podcast or something.
No, but at plus 2,000, that could be a pretty fun little.
Little. You'd take me to a nice lunch then.
I would say, hey, if he wins Rookie of the Year, I will take you to get a nice steak. How's that for lunch?
Instead of just McDonald's. Yeah, that sounds good.
All right. Well, that does it for this episode of Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. Thank you all so much for downloading and listening. Shouts to the Press Play Podcast Network for making this possible. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Cavs on the Break. We always follow back. Follow Sam on Twitter at Amico Hoops. Catch all of his work and writings at 48minutes.com. And don't forget, check out Outkick.com for breaking news, insider info, and more. Sam, any final thoughts?
That's it. It's just been a fun 8 games, and I'm happy for Cavs fans, because I know they're excited to watch us. And I mean, really, there's only really one thought that you can say this week, and isn't it going to be great after the Browns go into Pittsburgh without their head coach and win? That's going to be so awesome. I know it's going to happen. I can't be more excited, because I know the Browns are due to beat Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh, and it's going to happen. And then we'll see what happens against the Chefs.
I was recording a podcast with Dennis Maniloff and Brian Anderson, the pitcher for the Diamondbacks, who's from Northeast Ohio. And we were talking about how it's really just like a Moneyball sequel, right? This could not be more Hollywood scripted for Paul DePodesta to, the first year, you don't have the coach that you've wanted for 3 years to, now he's out, and now Baker, and now all this, and all of a sudden I can see it now in Hollywood on the big screen. Browns win in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Hopefully they'll put this podcast on it when they make the movie.
Amico, this audio.
Amico and Chase Smith predicted the victory. Yeah. So,
all right. Well, hey, do you want to do our the Mike Breen honors?
Are we ready?
Yeah, I think we are. I think we're at that moment.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll talk to you next week. And Mike Breen, take us out!
Congratulations, Cleveland. Your decades-long wait is finally over. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.